Welcome to the Monday Morning Marketing Podcast for all decision makers and action takers. Take it away, Esther.
And welcome back to another episode of the Monday Morning Marketing Podcast. Today we're talking about advertainment with Dan Knowlton. Welcome, Dan.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so we'll get into what advertainment is in a minute because it sounds really weird or interesting. The merging of all these different words. When did you get started in marketing, Dan?
Oh, good question. I actually did a business management with marketing degree at the University of Brighton. I'm trying to think how long ago that was. It's probably 13 years ago I started that. So I'd say 13 years.
Brilliant. And have you always enjoyed marketing?
That's a telling question.
Yeah, not really. It's one of those kind of accidentally falling into it and then getting an interest by doing stuff that actually started working. It wasn't like I was like a kid going, I want to be a marketer. But it was kind of accidentally falling into it and then getting some traction originally on Twitter. And it's quite exciting when you learn how to do something, do it and see some results coming through. And that kind of got me hooked. And that was probably like 10 years ago that I really started to get an interest.
Oh, we miss Twitter.
So just out of interest, Dan, one of the reasons why you have been in our orbit for quite some time is just how daring you can be.
Yeah.
So can you just for the purpose of the listeners getting some idea of why you've gone into our orbit, can you give an example of a few of the campaigns and kind of the zany things you've ended up doing?
Yeah, so I think that's a very good way of putting it. I guess we discovered very early on that if your marketing looks like everyone else's, you're not going to get noticed, right? And we learned that because probably the first 2 years of running our agency, we did that. We did what everyone else does. And our growth, there wasn't much growth really in our agency. And then we started to try and have fun with it and think, if what we're doing is currently, it was doing okay. Like we started out creating educational blogs on marketing. Anything we'd learn, like growing a Twitter following, like running Facebook ads, we'd create a detailed article to share with the world and show them what we knew to kind of position ourselves as experts. And that did okay, but it wasn't anything sort of mind-blowing. And then we started to test like funny skits and sketches. My brother's my business partner, and we would basically create these skits around things we were experiencing while starting a new business. So for example, we went to a lot of kind of local breakfast networking events and met lots of interesting people and had some quite funny, interesting things happen. And we would create skits around the kind of types of people you meet at those networking events. And that was the kind of first starting point of, we started to gain a lot more traction, a lot more awareness of what we were doing. And then we really thought, oh, wow, this kind of content and creative actually gets a lot more attention. People seem to resonate a lot more with it. I guess that was a starting point. Like, maybe we should try and start to create more fun and entertaining content rather than, just educational, sort of very formal content. And I guess that from there, there's a long journey of doing that for small local businesses, then bigger brands. And I've got lots of examples and things I can share. But yeah, that was kind of the journey, realizing fun, entertaining content was working. Let's try it on small local businesses. And then that started to work as well. And then we've built up the kind of caliber of brand that we support to do that over the last 10 years.
So it's start small and find your ideal audience and find your ideal customers in your case as well by testing in a way, isn't it? It's just like test and see if it works, because that type of entertaining content wouldn't feel comfortable for a lot of businesses to do. It would, you think of the brands like, I don't know, Ryanair comes to mind, when they're sniping back at each other on Twitter, or sorry, X now. That sort of entertainment that when they're, being told off by Elon Musk that, the CEO is an idiot, and they just lean into it,
Yeah.
But other brands, maybe like, I don't know, Royal Mail or On Post in the Republic of Ireland, wouldn't really maybe get into that? Or is this sort of entertainment for any and every brand?
Yeah, great question. And I think this is we sort of pigeonholed ourselves early on into this corner of people thinking we just did ha entertainment. But really, like, we support lots of brands with marketing that are very serious. Like, we work with very regulated industries like Hastings Direct, and Citibank, and the BBC and Channel 4 and stuff. So, like, I think I just want to, like, make a point that advertainment doesn't have to be funny. The way I think of advertainment is, when you're creating any kind of marketing collateral, you need to first think of the person you're trying to convince to do something, and then work backwards from that and create content campaigns that they find interesting. It could make them laugh. Like, that is definitely a very successful approach that we found. It could lean into nostalgia. Like, we did this we relaunched Sunny D, the drinks brand, in the UK about 4 years ago, and we created this really nostalgic, entertaining campaign with Barry from EastEnders and Dave Benson Phillips from Get Your Own Back. These shows from the 90s, because we were targeting millennials. Or it could be, making people feel some kind of emotion. It doesn't even have to be a good emotion. It can make them feel sad, because whenever your emotions are kind of triggered, it makes you want to take action. Like, if you look back at your social news feed, your personal news feed, and look at the last 10 things you shared, I guarantee it's because they triggered some kind of emotion. They made you feel happy. They made you feel sad. They made you feel angry. Like, so that's a really good question. I don't think everyone should try and be funny. Like, it doesn't align with a lot of brands, and a lot of the more serious brands we work with. There's a lot of red tape. When we present to them and stuff, there's a lot of red tape around the brand, the brand voice. There has to tick a lot of boxes. You can't go too far. I guess, from my perspective, we still try and push that creativity, because we know that the more creative, the more your marketing doesn't look like everyone else's, the better it's going to perform, from our experience. So, yeah, although you don't have to be funny, you have to be doing things that other people in your industry aren't doing.
Yeah.
Very good points. So let's talk about these particular brands that you've already pointed out, their tone of voice, their brand persona. Do they just bring you on for certain campaigns, or is it for a long-term thing? Because it could change how they're perceived if it's just for campaigns.
It's a whole variety. So normally, like, we work on a retainer basis. So we have brands that one brand we've worked with, Cameo Apples, for like 8 years in a row, like on a retainer basis. Others, it's more of a standalone campaign. Usually the way it works is, whenever a brand's, especially the bigger brands, are working with a new agency, they normally kind of test you out on a smaller campaign to manage risk, basically. Like, if the CMO chooses a new agency and they don't do a great job, like, they want to have the risk as low as possible. So normally they start you on a smaller campaign, and then you build up from there, prove what you do works, prove they can trust you, and then it slowly builds. For example, we work with Constant Contact, which is one of the world's leading email marketing and marketing providers. We started probably 3 years ago with a very small strategy development campaign, and then they were really impressed with that. And then we did this big activation in London, Victoria, with Mr. Motivator, where we were motivating small businesses, and it was like a big flash mob and stuff. And then now we're on a retainer with them, and when they're international marketing partner. So it kind of builds from that point of building trust in a small way and working from there.
And just when you mentioned about international there, because a lot of our audience is in America, and they might not have heard of all these different characters and people that you've been using in your things. One thing, so I lived out of the country for a long time, but something that the UK does really well is weird adverts. Like, we actually make a game of it at home here, because we turn off the sound and just try to guess, based on the imagery that's going across the screen, what the advert is actually for. And some of the weirdest ones recently have been IKEA, British Gas, and just using little. It doesn't make any sense, but in the end it sticks with you. You sort of, and it, like you say, if it creates an emotion, because there are songs from I'm in Northern Ireland, and our road safety campaigns always used popular songs that I can no longer listen to because of the trauma that those adverts created. Samantha Mumba, I'm so sorry, but your song is now,
Oops.
can't be listened to. is there something that works internationally or,
Yeah.
across all regions, all countries, all cultures? Or do
Yeah.
you need to have like something, we're talking big brands or brands that are smaller and wanting to reach out into different countries. Should they use the same tactic and strategy and campaign in all these different countries, or should they hire in country for the different regions?
So from our experience, like the overall arching sort of marketing framework can be the same, but it needs to be localized. And I'll give you an example. So we shot this global campaign for an eSIM brand called Erello, and we shot it in the Bahamas. And it was it was for Italy, Germany, France, and the UK. And we focused on hiring local talent because we knew they would resonate with the audiences and that kind of thing. But the thing that was consistent was the relatable character. The campaign was based around, it was called Airport Dad. And it was based around, when you're in a group of mates or in a family, there's always like the Airport Dad character that has all the passports ready, that is rushing off, it has everything printed. And it was that relatable concept of the Airport Dad. But we localized it by casting local talent in those regions who also spoke the right language, but also their behavior was more relatable to those regions because they were from them. So I guess that's at a much bigger scale, but like smaller scale, I think you still need to think localized. Like something with the US market, we work in the US as well, is some of the UK, like British humor doesn't always resonate with them or with other markets. So you really need to try and understand what does resonate with them. Like something that I think works really well, a brand that's doing really well is like Liquid Death. I think that's a US brand. I'm guessing it is.
It's water, but Melanie. It's water.
It's water
in a can.
Yeah. It's but they're really good at kind of nailing US based humor. But I think one thing, just one really important point on this advertainment piece is you want to be careful that you don't just try and entertain and don't achieve your end goal of actually selling your product. We made this mistake early on where we just created funny content, got loads of views, got loads of engagement. Everyone was saying how brilliant it was, but we didn't sell anything. So advertainment's all about creating content and campaigns that people enjoy consuming, but they also need to subtly sell what you do. And there's ways you can do that through cleverly demonstrating a problem that the target market has and then presenting a solution in a fun, engaging way. But yeah, it's really important to think like, how can you get the reasons why your customers should buy your product across in this content, in these campaigns, not just funny, relatable content.
So we've got these compelling ideas now and we're ready to convey them. So what would be your best ways to do it? Would it be through short stories? Would it be with a bit of music? Would you add an influencer? What is your top tips for our smaller businesses?
Cool. Top tips. So I think one of the really important points is start with who you're trying to convince to do something in mind first. Start with your target market. Who are they? What keeps them up at night that your product or service solves? What interests do they have? What are they talking about in their friends' WhatsApp groups? Really understand that end customer, because once you understand them, then you can work backwards from that to produce creative that really resonates with them. That's the hardest bit is, you can get in front of these people through lots of different means, but if you're getting in front of them with something that doesn't resonate, that isn't interesting enough, that doesn't relate to them specifically, they're going to swipe past it or not read it or, not consume it. So start with the end customer in mind, really get to understand them. And some practical ways to do that. One, speak to them. Like if you have a set of customers, do like focus groups, interviews, like find out more about them and what keeps them up at night, what their challenges are, what their interests are, and really get a good understanding of that. And I know that it sounds like a kind of marketing box ticking exercise. It's really not, because when you understand that, you can really understand the nuances. Like one example is we did this with Wall, the clipper brand that has all the hair clippers and stuff. We did a big campaign with them in COVID, and it was targeting barbers. And it went extremely well because everyone was buying hair clippers. But what we did was we went and spoke to barbers and got an understanding of like, what do you talk about with your barber mates? that like normal people like us wouldn't understand. And then we kind of sprinkled in all of that language and the way they speak into the copy and the creative, so that it felt like when a piece of creative lands in their feed, that is speaking to them because it's in their language. It's talking about the things only they know about. So that's the first thing. Start with the end person in mind. The next thing is really try and, especially for small businesses, you only have a limited amount of resource. So really try and think about what are the media formats you're going to test to create this marketing content that's going to be part of the campaign that suit your skills, what you're interested in, what you're good at. You know, the constant question is like, should I start a podcast? Should I create a video? Should I post on social? Should I write a blog? Like, I think the answer is, one, your customers have to be there, but also you have to enjoy and be good at creating content in those formats. So I'd start by, end person in mind, then the media that you're going to use, and then start testing. Testing is so crucial. Like if your marketing is not currently working, it's because you're not testing enough.
Yeah, got to agree with that. So the other issue is that, like I said, the majority of the people that listen to us would be smaller businesses. So they won't always bring in people like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we help these particular business owners build the confidence to be in front of that? Because it's mostly video you're talking about here. It's not, screen grabs and carousels. It's actual video. So how can we help them build the confidence to do this? Or are we all using AI instead?
I guess a couple of things. I think a lot of what we do is video, but attached to that is a whole load of like static GIFs and things that you can create. So it doesn't have to be video. Like you could really gain a successful following through creating really great blogs, like written content and that kind of thing. But you have to do it in a way that isn't just the same as everyone else. But to go back to the point of confidence on video, I had this when I started creating videos 10 years ago. So I basically quit my job, moved back in with my parents, and started learning how to use Twitter and creating videos about how I was doing that. I was terrible on video. I wasn't confident, but I saw other successful marketeers doing it. And I thought, I want what they've got. They're clearly creating a lot of video. I need to do it. And I think the thing in my head that I was worried about is all my friends poking fun at me. Like me, they'd never seen me on social media talking about Twitter or Facebook or whatever. Now they're going to see me and I don't want them to make fun of me. They did make fun of me. They did, quite a lot. However, the thing that I had in my mind was, how much do I want the end goal that I need to create these videos to get? And because I'd basically burnt out in my previous job, never wanted to work for anyone again, I was so determined to build a successful business that meant I didn't have to work for anyone again. I didn't care if people would make fun of me. I didn't care if I looked silly. I just saw these other successful people doing it and thought, I've got to do this. And it's worth, the pain of being mocked or whatever. But I think that's the question you need to have in your head. If you're nervous about creating video or whatever, ask yourself, like, why am I doing this? And how much do I want that thing? And if you want that thing enough, you will just do it. And try not to worry what other people think.
Bravo.
Good advice. Is there a difference between advertainment and edutainment?
To be honest, I think us marketers just love buzzwords, so I think it's the same thing. It's just the same thing. Well, I guess maybe not exactly the same. Maybe edutainment is more entertaining, educational content. Advertainment is more entertaining adverts. But to be honest, in my mind, like advertainment is any marketing that people enjoy consuming and makes them buy stuff. So that could be educational, entertaining content. It could be literally ads that are entertaining, anything that makes people buy stuff and they enjoy consuming. I class as kind of that.
Yeah. And you were saying, when your clients see the return from these, so what do you implement that they can see that, because of that ad specifically rather than the other one, people have bought?
ROAS.
So I think, well, I guess it depends what the goal of the campaign is and how everything's set up to achieve that goal. But there's things like we use a tool called Databox where we create these bespoke dashboards that basically connect to everything and show the customer whatever they want to see. So if it was like an e-commerce client selling through a website, we can set up a dashboard that shows the traffic from all of the ads, which ones are converting, which ones are generating kind of highest lifetime value from that customer, which ones are making people spend a lot. And then there's lots of interesting lessons you can learn. Like with one of the big SaaS customers we're working with, we noticed that through this dashboard that we were getting, with image ads, we were getting loads of clicks to the website to sign up for a trial. And a previous agency that worked on the account thought that was showing that was successful. They're really working. But when you dived into the data, although video assets got less clicks, they actually, more of those people converted from a trial to an actual customer. So there's tools like Databox, and there's lots of other ones out there. We used to use a tool called Dash This, where you can connect all of these different marketing touch points up into a dashboard and really understand what's working, what isn't, and go from there.
Cool.
Okay, so when it comes down to the creation basis, how much of this do you go through with your client and say, look, how far can we go? Or do they literally just give you free rein typically?
It really depends on the client and like the industry they're in and their kind of appetite for creativity. So usually in the kind of discovery phase, we'll ask lots of questions around the brand. And usually I do literally ask, how far can we push this in terms of sort of being on the nose and being a bit, daring. Sometimes they say, a lot of the time they're kind of like, oh, we want you to be really creative, but not too like daring. It doesn't help that much, but I think we kind of judge it by the industry. Like I said, like Hastings Direct, very regulated industry, lots of levels of authorization through every piece of content we create. So, you have to stick to certain boundaries. But there's other brands like Cameo Apples, I love, because they just let us do whatever we want. And we've got millions and millions of views, and we've done things like when Game of Thrones season 8 came out quite a few years ago, we did this whole campaign where we got a Cameo Apples employee on a horse dressed up as a Game of Thrones person and like positioned him as the biggest Game of Thrones fan ever. We even, one of the weirder things we did, have you watched Gogglebox?
Yes.
No.
Okay, so for those that don't know, Gogglebox is basically a UK show where families comment on TV shows that they're watching. And you watch them, how they react to TV shows. It's very popular. It sounds very strange. But we created a miniature Gogglebox set where we had apples who were sitting on the sofa commenting on the TV shows. And we ran paid ads to their target market who we knew were interested in those TV shows like Dancing on Ice and stuff. And it was a really clever way to drive engagement from their target market on something they're interested in, whilst also subtly talking about the benefits of these apples. They're sweet, they're crisp, they last for longer. So yeah, I think it varies depending on the client, but I love it when they do let us kind of do whatever we want. It's fun.
Dan, you mentioned that you and your brother work closely together, and do you bounce well off each other, or is there any, because I work with my family too, and sometimes there's conflict. Do you work well together, or is it more a case of, hey, I'm your big brother and you will do as I say? Or
Good question. We didn't work well together at all. We'd never worked together in this kind of capacity, and it was a very big learning curve because we didn't know how. We're complete opposites. We have complete opposite sets of skills. His role now is CEO, manages the team, manages the project delivery. I'm very much sales focused, go out and meet people, sell what we do. We didn't vote very well, but after like 10 years of working together, we've got a lot better. And
so there's hope for me yet.
Yeah, we now, I think, just try and give some tips. Like, we now have very open conversations about how we're feeling, what we're thinking, and we don't take it to heart. Previously, when we'd give each other critical feedback, we'd very much take it personally. Now, every week we have a weekly meeting. We use the Entrepreneur's Operating System as how we run our business. And every week we have to have a meeting and we critique each other and give feedback on each other, like what we're doing. And it's a very open, honest conversation, and we set actions as to how we can improve each week. And that has been fundamental in us having this kind of hockey stick growth in the last few years, because we are just so open and honest, and we know like we're doing it for the greater good, like growing the business, getting to where we want to get to. We have to have those honest conversations. It's not always the easiest, but it's worth it and it works.
Wow. So you've got to have those meetings every week, Esther. Good luck.
It's worth it. Trust me, it's worth it.
I'll just have the divorce papers by my side. Joking, because he edits this. Joking.
So just a quick question before. Is there anywhere on your website, or is there any downloads, or is there any blog, or is there any resource, anything of yours that would help people make better use of using your tactics and your techniques?
Yes, we've actually just released the 2026 Marketing Performance Report. You can Google it, type literally in the last few weeks. We went out and interviewed 25 of the world's leading marketers from brands like Disney, Salesforce, the BBC, Channel 4, and asked them what's working in your marketing right now, and then collated that all into a report that anyone can download for free. So yeah, check that out. That hopefully that's useful. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, I create lots of content on LinkedIn. If you just search my name every day, anything we're learning whilst running campaigns for these brands, I like to just share everything and hope it's useful to someone.
Brilliant. Dan, what is your website so people can go and check you out there?
It's knowltonmarketing.co.uk. So it's my surname, Knowlton, with a K, Knowlton, marketing.co.uk. That's our website.
Brilliant.
And what would be the best way to reach you if anybody wanted to contact you?
There's a contact form on there. You'll see it to start a conversation, or just message me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to answer any questions, or any specifics anyone has that they want to learn about. Just let me know and I'll reply and hopefully be helpful.
Now, there is one question you didn't fully answer earlier on, and that was mention some of the zany ways that you have created content. You didn't say which examples.
Oh, which to mention? I guess, do you want examples from what we've created for our own marketing, or would you like some for the brands
either
we work
or?
with?
I mean, yours is pretty far out, in fairness.
Yeah. Cool. Where to start? I guess I'll try and think of some of the most successful content we've created. So we produce a lot of content on LinkedIn. One of the things we did was we created a parody Diary of a CEO episode where we made it look like Lloyd and I were being interviewed on the Diary of a CEO, and we picked out weird questions that Stephen Bartlett's asked, and then obviously made it look like a conversation where we were answering them, and that did really well. We did that a few years ago, but that got a lot of traction. There's other things, like I actually just reposted this today. We created a LinkedIn influencer parody video where it was kind of poking fun at how, and it's sort of poking fun at myself as well, but how people on LinkedIn, something happens in their day-to-day life, like they spill their coffee, and then they make this elaborate story on LinkedIn, how it's like helped them to get their dream job because they learned that spilling the coffee, made them feel like whatever. But that was another one we did that was really fun. But yeah, I guess on our website, we've got loads of examples. There's other things, like we did this really cool campaign where and I guess this is less funny, but more entertaining to lean into. It doesn't have to be funny. There's a really, I don't want to say really dull, but not the most exciting brand that sells, it's a great brand, but they sell premium fiber cement boards. Not that interesting, right?
No.
It's kind of like backing boards that you put when tiling a room. And they wanted us to make that exciting. So we basically, it's called No More Ply. There's a case study on our website. We got a branded Nissan Cube car. We got a world-class stunt driver, and we got them to absolutely cane it around Cross Circuit, this racetrack. And we interviewed in the car the different people that work there about the product and why people should buy it, whilst they're like go around this track sideways. That actually won Marketing Campaign of the Year and did really well. But that's an example of how trying to take a really boring, dull product and making it something that's interesting to watch whilst also selling it. That's another one. But there's loads of other examples on our website that you can see.
That is mad.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun.
Well, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy day. And I'm sure your brain never switches off with all these creative ideas that you have flying around in it. But we hope that this has been helpful for all our audience listening in. Do connect with Dan on LinkedIn, check out his website, and go and download the report that he mentioned as well. So thanks very much, Dan. And we'll see you soon at Atomicon in Newcastle. If anyone is around that is going to go to that, he goes every year. So you can always catch up with him there in person as well, and with me and Melanie sometimes too. So that's it for today, guys. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Monday Morning Marketing Podcast. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye.
You're allowed to say bye, Dan.
Oh, sorry. I didn't want to interrupt you. Bye.